And I just turned around and I hauled ass out of there. I was done. I wasn't dealing with that.
The hypocrisy of the cult is one of the things that turned me away the quickest.
When I turned my headlights on, it turned and looked at us. And one of the things I remember the most were the eyes were glowing red.
I see an orb of light. It is just circling these steps like it is waiting for me.
And he begins to tell them that he saw a UFO. They're basically like, what are you talking about? That's 7 foot up on a tree, peeking around it, and that's where I saw the top of the muzzle, nose, and the eyes. As soon as I made eye contact with this thing, it felt like death.
Welcome back to Tinfoil Tales, and I am joined by my guest, John. John, thanks for coming on here talking with me.
Hey, my pleasure, Brandon. Thanks for having me.
Not a problem. Would you like to let the audience know a little bit about yourself before we get into it?
Sure. My name is John Turley. I am the co-owner of Crow-Town Squatchers with my wife, Beth. We travel all over the Midwest we do Bigfoot cryptid shows. We sell t-shirts, hoodies, toys, comics, magazines, books, all kinds of stuff, neat things, stuff that we like basically because we're just fans, and so that's what we sell, and it's stuff that we wear. I'm wearing one of our shirts right now. You can't see it, but we wear the stuff that we make, and I make all the shirts here, and like to call this Crow-Town Squatchers Central down here. I'm actually in the Bigfoot room recording this, so the Bigfoot room is just off to the side, and then in there's where we're basically a workshop with the rest of the basement. But we got, like I said, we got into this about 8 years ago, and I've been doing it ever since. I started my interest in Bigfoot goes way back to the 70s. So started with In Search Of and all the cool movies from the 70s, the Bigfoot movies, obviously Legend of Boggy Creek and Bigfoot Myths and Monsters and Sasquatch, The Legend of Bigfoot. That's my personal favorite. That's I've always loved that movie because it's kind of like the greatest hits of Bigfoot in there. Had a sighting when I was a young fella, and then had another we'll call it a vocalization with a whole bunch of different circumstances that we'll probably get into during this. So I don't want to get ahead of myself.
Yeah, no, you're good. So I was going to say I'm admiring your wall because it's very similar to what mine is, and same colors, same designs, everything else. Like, turn on my camera so you can see it, but I don't know if anyone else can, but I've got the same green and the stuff on the wall. So I was like, I'm thinking, I was like, I wonder if it's just something subconscious to us, that people that are into Bigfoot and cryptids and everything, we paint our walls green and hang up Bigfoot memorabilia.
It could, and I'll tell you, I'm glad you mentioned that too, Brandon, because I'll tell you a little bit. When we moved into this house, this room, the guy that owned this room, this was his workshop, and it was all white.
Mm-hmm.
It was painted all white. So when we moved in, I'm like, this is what I want to do with this room. So the floor is brown, and there's over here to my left, there's a couple of footprints that I left the original white paint. So I just painted around like Bigfoot footprints on the floor. And then the green behind me on the wall is kind of sloped, so it's supposed to look like hills. There's blue up there, and the ceiling is blue. So it's like the outdoors.
Yeah.
And I have these cabinets in front of me. They're all brown, except for the doors are green. And they have foots painted on them from the Bigfoot pizza.
Mm-hmm.
If you got that at Walmart.
Yeah.
We used that for a sketch or for a pattern, and we did that, and we put some Bigfoots on that green in brown. So yeah, it's the whole outdoor. It's the whole outdoor motif right here.
Right. Yeah. But the wall behind me is green. The rest of them, I've just got the pieces of drywall because I just drywalled all this barn with stuff I had left over. I didn't go out and spend any extra money on it. I just had a whole bunch of stuff left over. So I just put up some insulation in the walls, and then I just put drywall sheets up as much as I could, just kind of piece everything together, get rid of all the extra drywall I had. But I painted the back wall green, and the rest just got all sorts of different signs and
That's awesome.
other cryptid stuff, alien stuff, anything that I find interesting. I was like, I've turned my little studio into like my little man cave area with all my weird stuff that used to be boxed up is now out in the open.
Yeah, that's I mean, that's what it. I mean, that's what this is. It's got Bigfoot. That wall over there is kind of Mothman
Mm-hmm.
and some magazines and comics. Godzilla's over there.
Okay, you're talking my thing, because on my desk is Godzilla and Kong. I have I actually just took my shelf down. I'm building new shelves tomorrow, but I have an entire shelf system that I've dedicated all my Godzilla collectibles. So I'm a huge Godzilla nerd. I've got a fireproof safe in here with all the comic books of Godzilla stuff. So
I've got those are in the cabinets in front of me.
So,
yeah, I've actually got a complete run of the Marvel, the first.
I don't have all the Marvel, but I have all the Dark Horse, and I have some of the Marvel ones. I have the very first issue and some other random ones here and there, but I do have the first run of the Dark Horse ones.
Those are awesome.
I got those when they were actually still coming out. I was like a 10-year-old kid and just going to the comic store every month to get my comic book.
Yeah.
Well,
I know the feeling.
Enough about my weird Godzilla obsession. We're going to talk about the Bigfoot experiences you've had. So if you would like to dive into that, I'll turn it over to you.
Sure. The first one, this one happened in 79. We up here, it's actually, and I'm pointing up this way because it's literally not even it's probably about a half a mile from my house where this actually happened. So this is the east side of town. The east side of Coshocton is the town we live in, and this is right on the edge. So this tract of land up here, we called it Old Man McCoy's Hill because a guy named Mr. McCoy owned all this property, and it goes out for a mile or two in that direction. He owned a huge amount of land up there. And back in the 70s, there's a lot of houses up there now because people have bought tracts of the land and stuff. He's obviously passed away many years ago. But back then there was nothing up there. There's the radio tower. It's up on the hill, and not a lot else. There's one dirt road up there, and he used to drive around in this old beat up truck. And that was part of the fun of going up there on Old Man McCoy's Hill it was a cat and mouse game. And Old Man McCoy would load up his shotgun shells with rock salt, and he would shoot rock salt at you. I never got hit, but a couple of the teenagers, the older guys that ran around with my brother and my sister, actually got hit. And I guess that doesn't feel too good when you get hit with rock salt. But so, like I said, that was part of the fun. And he would chase you out of there. Now, the story that we were always told was he had two boys that died. He had three boys originally, and two of them died up there. One of them drowned in one of the ponds, and another one was killed in a thunderstorm, like lightning hit a tree or something, or the wind blew over a tree and it fell on him and he died. So I don't know all the veracity of those stories, but that's what we were always told. And that's one of the reasons why we went up there was to go fishing. Now, uh, somebody brought up it was Jessica Moira actually. We were talking about Smoky Mountain earlier, and I was when I was at the conference, I actually got up last year in front of the crowd on the lunch break and told this story. And she asked me after I got done, do you think one of the reasons that he didn't want anybody up there was because he knew that there was Bigfoots up there? And I never, that thought had never crossed my mind. And so that was, I was like, wow, I never thought of that. Is it possible? Yeah, it's possible, but it's one of those things we'll never know the answer to. So the way we used to get up there is we would go up in between these houses, up through, like I said, it's only a couple blocks down this way, and then we'd go up to the top. We'd go through these people's, like right in between two houses, and get up on this trail, and this trail would take us up to this old 2-track. That thing spent okay. We'd get on the old 2-track and walk up, and it would take you up to the hill or up to the top of the hill. And we were going down to me and my friend. He was older. He's 13. He's about 4 years older. So we're walking down the 2-track, and the way I remember it was the woods up to my right just exploded with noise. And what I mean by that is these saplings are getting shaken, like just. So we look up, and all I remember seeing is the head, the shoulders. So this is kind of early in the day. So the sun's behind this thing. Everything's in shadow. And we were like, freaking out. So we ran back down the 2-track. And this is the funny part. At the time, we kind of thought we were vigilantes. We were talking about comic books earlier, and we actually had some iron. If you remember Iron Fist, we had some of those masks with just the eye holes, and they would cover half your face. I mean, we didn't put them on, but we kind of thought we were vigilante superheroes. So we ran back down. I don't know, another 20 yards, 30 yards down the trail, and we stopped and jumped on each side of the trail and got behind these bushes. We ran some fishing line across the 2-track. Our plan was we're going to trip it, and if it's coming after us, and then we're going to jump on it and get it with our knives, our little pocket knives that we had. So, and then we looked at each other after like 5 seconds of this great plan and decided we were going to get the heck out of there, and we took off running. And I remember I think we ran all the way back down to, we both lived on, he lived on what's called Lower Wilson. I live on Wilson Avenue. So it's several blocks and a big hill down from, where the houses end up there. And I think we ran all the way home. And I remember going up the street to one of my buddy's house and telling him, I'd seen a Bigfoot. And I thought, oh man, they're going to be freaked out. They're going to want to go see it. They're going to want to talk about it. And I got basically like shot down in flames, like there's no such thing as a Bigfoot, and you're stupid. And that was kind of the end of it for, I kind of kept my mouth shut about it because I got made fun of for quite a while, even into high school. When I'd tell some close friends, it would always come out at some point. And people would, like Turley, ask Turley, he's one saw Bigfoot. So that part, that was kind of that's that was my story, and it's kind of I mean, there wasn't a whole lot to it. I don't remember. People ask me if I remember smelling anything.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember smelling anything. I don't remember if it screamed or yelled or hollered or anything like that. Um, but the other part of that story is if you fast forward it about 40, well, not even 40 years, but about 35 years. So it was right after Beth and I have been married now for 10 years. And it was right after we got together. We were at the fair, the county fair. And I saw my friend that was with me that day. And I've made this so most people know this. Um, I had a long period in my life where I was addicted to alcohol and drugs, and fried a lot of brain cells, and you know, so there's some things from my childhood. I'm like, I want to get, I want to make sure that this is what happened, and I remember it this way. So after Beth and I got together, and this was before we got started doing, doing Crow-Town Squatchers and all that. I didn't have a Bigfoot shirt on or anything like that. No Bigfoot hats, nothing. I walked up to my friend and hadn't seen him for a while. So I walked up to him and I said, "Hey, you remember that day we were up on Old Man McCoy's hill?" Now, that in itself is we were on that hill together probably 100 times. So to narrow down one day, and that's all I said was, "You remember that day we were on Old Man McCoy's hill?" Without skipping a beat, he looked at me. He said, "It was a Bigfoot, John." And it just, I mean, I remember walking back over to Beth and I was smiling and she was like, "What's going on?" And I'm like, he just, I needed to hear that from him that day. So, now the next part of the story happens in 1987. So it's about a mile or two from where that original sighting I had in 79 in this place called the Valley. As the crow flies, like I said, it's about a mile, 2 miles probably. And the way the eastern side of town is, it's just all hills and valleys and hollers. Um, I like to use the word holler because most
The hills and the hollers.
Hills and hollers. So, and that's what it really is. I mean, there's all kinds of neat little places back in there, but this one is called the Valley. We called it the Valley of Forever. We found it. Actually, my friend Bill's the one that found it. That I remember, anyways. And we used to have big parties back in there, and you could build a bonfire in the back, and there was a slope in the front, and it goes down, and it's all grass. And then up it goes. The hills all slope up like a soup bowl, and then there's a tree line all the way around it. So you've got really good. No light gets out of there, So that's the one thing we didn't want, because the sheriff would come and interrupt our teenage parties that we didn't like that happening. So we really liked this valley. So we would go there, and it's not that far from the high school either. And I don't know about you, but when we were in high school, we spent the whole year not wanting to be there. And then the first day of summer vacation, we would all meet in the high school parking lot, because that was just like the play, like, let's go to the high school parking lot and we'll all figure out what we want to do and where to go and hang out and all that. So it wasn't too far from there. 2.5 miles, maybe 3 miles. So there's 4 of us. Two of my buddies were they were in college. It was their freshman year, and it was me and another guy our senior year of high school. So we're out there, and it's before sundown, and we're drinking a couple of beers, and we're just sitting there listening to music and hanging out. And in the back of the valley, So if I'm staring straight back, we'll just call that we'll call that 12 o'clock. All right. So in the back of the valley, we hear this, "Wah!" And now I'm flipping out because the funny part of this is when I told you people make fun of me about having a Bigfoot sighting. And if you've ever seen the movie Sasquatch: The Legend of Bigfoot, that I used to imitate that howl that they do in that movie, and it kind of sounds like, "Oh!" It's kind of like a half of an Ohio howl. So this thing starts screeching back there, and then it stops, and we're all like, "What in the heck?" I'm sitting there, the wheels are already spinning. I'm like, "What is that? Like, come on." So it doesn't make any noise, and whatever this is staying in the tree line. It's not coming out at all. So I always figured if it was some kind of animal or something, we would have seen it. It was my brother once told me, he's like, maybe it was a sick cow. I'm thinking, they'd wander down out of that tree line. So, I don't know how long time passed, 10, 15 minutes. And then all of a sudden, you're about 1 o'clock. As if you're, pointing out where the valley is, the little hands on the one, we hear from that direction, we hear, "Ah!" And we're all scooting closer together because we're like, what is that? And, you know, 15, 20 minutes goes by, and then now we're at 2 o'clock, and this thing is getting closer to us. It's staying in the tree line, and it makes this, this howl again. And we're all like really close, like we're all bunched together now. And we're like, if that thing makes any more noise, we're getting the heck out of here. Right up the hill from us, this thing lets out, a screech, and we went boom. It reminded me of like a cartoon where people just run and you see the streaks behind them going into the vehicles. Because we just boom into the cars. And we booked it back. My buddy John was driving. I remember we were hauling butt back to the high school parking lot. We both pulled in. The car we were in and the other car that the other two were in jumped out. We were like, "What the heck was that? What was it?" So the other interesting part of this, there's two parts. So about 2 weeks before this, there was four other friends were in a buddy's Volkswagen, and they were driving down the road that goes. This road kind of pulls off of this other road. It's called Morgan Run Road. They had a juvenile sighting. So what I mean by that is a smaller Sasquatch type creature rolled out. They said it rolled out in front of them and stood up on it stood up on this side of the road. They went past it. They stopped and backed up. And one of my friends told me, he said you could see it. It was kind of like humped like this with its shoulders shrugged forward. It's like primate behavior, like trying to hide in plain sight.
Right.
And he said you could see he said it was hair. He didn't say it was fur. He said you could see the hair like in between it and stuff. So they had that happen. That was actually reported to police. That happened like 2 weeks before what happened to us in that valley. And like I said, it's just a stone's throw away from each other. At the same time, this was, like I said, 87. So Don Keating, who's the Ohio guru of Bigfooting. He's been doing it for 40 years. He's the one who had the first conference. Don had stuff all like signs up all over out in the woods and trees and on telephone poles, like, hey, if you've had a Bigfoot encounter, call me at this number. Now, I kick myself in the hind end to this day for not doing that. I wish I would have called him, at least got him out there to document all that stuff because it would have been awesome. But this was the first. I remember that Saturday was the first time I actually went squatching because we went out and we went looking for footprints and stuff. But the funny part was, and I can't remember why we did this. I think it was because there was trails, but I also think we didn't want to go on the other side of the valley. We were looking for footprints on the other side, like not where the noises were coming from. We were on the other side, and I think that was because like we didn't want to go over there, to look in there. But I remember it was a Saturday because I remember there was a high state game on that day. And we were like, well, let's go back and start watching the football game. We weren't too interested on finding anything.
Right.
I think it was partially because we were like terrified.
I was out this past weekend and we heard some strange things, and I took a couple of people out with me that aren't actually involved with anything like this. So it was kind of their first thing, and we started hearing noises, and one was probably an owl. The other, I'm not sure, could have been maybe a fox screeching or something. I don't know. I'm not a expert in weird animal noises, but we did hear a random tree snap, and it sounded big enough, and I heard something walking. It's like, well, it is like deer season, so I'm just hoping I'm not worried about finding a Bigfoot. I'm worried about a pissed off buck coming charging at me or something. But wherever the snap came from, the other people wanted to go the opposite direction. So that was kind of the end of the night. Whenever that random noises started to pick up, things started getting interesting. That's when everyone decided that it was time for them to wrap it up. I was like, oh, it's just starting to get interesting.
Yeah. But I'm glad that kind of, I guess it's a habit of self-preservation kicks in no matter,
Right.
how old you are, because like I said, that's, we were over there and we weren't even close to what we were looking for, but it was fun because, that, like I said, that was 1987. And I mean, I knew there was people that went out. Obviously I knew about Gone. I wasn't super familiar with any kind of squatching. The only thing I had ever really seen was, like I said, some of those movies where they, my thought of going looking for Bigfoot was, get the pack horses and we're going back into the Pacific Northwest, and you got to go way back in the woods, and there might be a whole bunch of them back in there somewhere where nobody has ever hardly been before. I knew there was a few sightings in Ohio from that Peter Graves movie. I'm trying to think of that, and that one's called like Myths, Monsters.
No, I'm not familiar with that one.
But Peter Graves was he's the one that he's obviously one of the funniest movies ever. He was the pilot in Airplane, but he was a huge Bigfoot enthusiast, and I found this out a few years ago. Like he was diehard into it, and that's one of the reasons why he did I got that book. I just got it yesterday, but it's called like Myths, Monsters, Mysteries, Myths, Mysteries, and Monsters. You'll have to look that one up, Brandon, because it's got some really good stuff in it. It talks about Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, and Yeti. So like the big three back then.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously now, if they did one, it would be Bigfoot, and Mothman, and Dogman, probably the way.
That is the three that I have on my desk. I've got a Dogman that my wife got from you, and a Mothman, which I'm not sure where she got that one from. May have been you too.
I've been me too.
And there's a Bigfoot that my parents got me, which it's holding up a sign that says "Keep calm and squatch on," but he's got some actual like real hair to it. So I don't know where that came from, but they gave it to me.
That's pretty cool.
They gave it to me for my birthday, so he's holding up like a little wooden sign. So I've got the big three right now. The whole Loch Ness monster, and I feel like sea monsters have lost a lot of the lore like they used to have, like the glory of the sea monster hunt, like the Loch Ness monster and everything else. You don't really hear a whole lot anymore about stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of like it kind of goes through phases, I guess. Because there was, obviously, there was a time, Nessie was huge for a long time, and then even Champ, the Lake Champlain monster, was big there for a little while, like in the 80s and early 90s, I think. And even, there's one in Lake Erie, Bessie, that had a little bit of probably 5 minutes of fame. And yeah, it doesn't seem like anybody cares about lake monsters right now. It's going to have to, I guess, something big's going to have to happen before they get back in the spotlight.
I'm surprised how Mothman has taken off to where it has be like it's almost and no offense to the ladies, but for some reason I've noticed a lot of ladies love Mothman more so than a lot of other cryptids lately because that seems to be I've seen a lot of people when I've been at these festivals and everything, I've seen a lot of ladies dressed up as Mothman. So it's like I want to say cosplay influence to it, but it's gotten to that point where a lot of people just enjoy being Mothman, I guess.
Yeah, and I talked to a couple other people where we were talking about that, and I guess some of the like the younger generations, like they've really um, like kind of grabbed a hold of Mothman as like their symbol, their spirit animal. A lot of the introverts. I don't know if you ever gone to Mothman Festival, Brandon?
No, I've wanted to. I've wanted to set up a booth there, but it's always so booked out in advance that I don't know if I can get on a waiting list at this point. Same thing with like Frogman. I've been wanting to get on Frogman, but I've just always been too late to get on the list.
Well, Frogman's a lot of fun. Mothman is you ought to just maybe go down there and visit, like want to go down there on the Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's insane. I mean, it is the cosplay, just the people that and I'm not saying it to be rude. I think some people, it's besides Halloween's the only time they ever come out, and it's because they dress up in their cosplay outfits, and I think it gives them an opportunity to get out and just kind of be themselves. But it is unbelievable how many people are, like you said, they're dressed up as Mothman, they're dressed up as this, they're dressed up as that. It really, but the whole Mothman is kind of like like the unifying thing there. I think they said they had 32,000 people there this year. Yeah. And I mean, it's just amazing. It's really, it's the Super Bowl, the World Series, and the Sweet 16 all wrapped up in the same weekend. It's amazing.
I've heard the Ohio Bigfoot Festival or Bigfoot Conference is actually one of the biggest ones they have around here. I don't know if there's any other ones like that, but from what I've talked to with a few people, and we're talking off air, you go to that one too. Is it bigger than a majority of the ones that you've attended? Like at least in our area?
Yeah. I mean, it is. You can't really deny it. Typically, I think they average between 4,000 and 5,000 people that show up.
Mm-hmm.
The good thing about OBC is, as we like to call it, The good thing about it is well, there's several good things. So for one, it's a Salt Fork Lodge. Salt Fork is the biggest state park in Ohio. There's all kinds of trails. Just there's lots of fun stuff to do. You can bring your pets. It's there's so much land. You literally feel like Bigfoot could walk out of the woods while you're there, and you'd be like, "What? Like somebody just saw a Sasquatch?" Like, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all because there's been numerous sightings around the park. They've even got maps. If you go up to the front desk and ask them, "Do you have a map of where the Bigfoot sightings have been?" And they do. They have them up there, and they'll give you one. The other thing is when you go to OBC, so all the speakers have tables. You don't have to buy tickets you can obviously to get in there and listen to the speakers and watch the presentations and all that. But the flea market, they call it the vendor flea market, is free and open to everybody. So all you have to do is go there, and you can walk around and talk to every speaker that's there that day. There's usually some extra, call them Bigfoot celebrities there as well, walking around somewhere. So it's so cool because you can spend the whole day there and you get to talk to, like, that's how I got to meet Cliff Berrickman, and we met Bobcat up there. Bobcat Goldthwait was up there the one year we went, and that was before we were vending. We were just up there to check out the Bigfoot conference, and so it's just a lot of fun. I mean, you can just hang out and get to see a bunch of cool people, and
They
you could
had
probably get in. You could probably get in up there if you call Mark Dorth or contact him.
they when it was going on, it was the same day that I was already scheduled for the Smoky Mountain one, and I thought it was strange. I thought it was strange as they were doing them at the same time.
That's right. I forgot those are on the same day.
Yeah. So I might look into the Ohio one just to see what it's like. That's the only area that I haven't been to yet. Far as no, I haven't been in Ohio. I've been the one right on the border of Ohio, but it wasn't in Ohio. So no, I try and stay within the couple-hour drive if possible.
Yeah, I totally understand that. But yeah, so that'd be good for you though. I mean, you said you're like just north of Indy, because that Salt Fork's right off 70.
Right. Yeah, so it's not too far, probably only a couple hours.
Yeah, you just zoom over, get on 70 and haul butt over here. And like I said, it's beautiful. Salt Fork is just a beautiful area. So it's totally worth it.
Where are you?
Well,
I was going to say, do you have anything else you'd like to share as far as experiences? Otherwise, I was going to talk to you a little bit about your business and some of the stuff you're going to be at.
the other thing I'll share about Bigfoot experiences. So, it's kind of like what you were talking about earlier. Like, we've actually found several footprints over at Salt Fork. My wife found one the one time. It was like 2018, right in the middle of Morgan's Trail. It's one of the bigger, more well-traveled trails. It was in the springtime. There's a area you walk through. It's all pine trees. It's really cool, and they're all in a row like this. So you look down through there. I mean, it's either like a horror movie or a Bigfoot documentary where you see something go flying past, like straight across, because those trees are just like, it's like a hallway almost, because they're so close together. When it rains, if you're in there when it's raining, the canopy is so interlocked, like it keep you very little rain comes in through there. It's pretty cool. But when you come out on the other side of there's a sandy trail that goes up a slight hill, and there was a footprint right there. It was Beth reached down to tie her shoe, and she's like, "Hey, come over here and look at this." And I mean, it was obvious. And then I found another one not too far from there um, last year or the year. No, it was the year before. No, it was last year. Um, not too far from it. I mean, it was right over there, going up. It was right beside this little rise, and so also found a really weird four-toed footprint up there. I mean, it was very odd. It looked almost like an alligator foot. But it was about the size, it was about the size of my hand. And I'm like, what is that? What the heck is that? So my whole point of that is like we have found stuff when we're not even out like quote unquote bigfooting. Like we're just out in the woods, usually like after lunch taking a walk. And so, I always encourage people to get out in the woods, go check it out. You can go out and you don't have to wait till night. You can go out in the daytime and you can listen. All you got to do is listen, be patient. Sometimes you're out there, you feel it. Like you just get different feelings when you're out there. Like sometimes it's like kind of welcoming. Sometimes it's not so welcoming. Seems a little creepy.
You don't.
But you always hear weird stuff.
Right. And so you don't really think about how eerie it is until you're actually out there in the dark and it's silent, except you hear the noises that breaks the silence. It's like the silence makes it creepy until there is no silence because you hear that one random noise and then you're like, uh-oh, what was that? Then your anxiety starts kicking in even worse.
I was out by myself. This was probably 3 years ago, and it was 3 a.m. And I'm out by there's a place out here in Coshocton County. It's called Mary Stuckham's Grave. Mary was a witch. This is the story. She's our famous local witch. So she was a witch. Supposedly she was causing the death of some of her children. And after she died, the kids kept dying. So they dug her body up and chopped her head off and buried the head on one side of the road and buried her body on the other side. So that's the legend of Mary Stuckham's. But you go out there, it's a family cemetery, and it's way out in the sticks, off of County Road 7. Lots of Bigfoot sightings out in this area. So I'm out by there, and it's 3 a.m. and there's a dog barking. I can hear this dog barking like it's probably 2 miles away, like rah, rah, rah. And then he quits. And that's when it really got scary. Like the dog barking was kind of, that was soothing because I was like, oh, he's a puppy, But when he quit barking, and he quit completely, like he didn't whine, whimper, or nothing, he just stopped barking. Just stopped. And it was just like, oh man. The silence was just oppressive.
Yeah.
Like, it was oppressive.
Where we were at recently, and I know it's probably we were hearing the hum from some sort of electrical wires. I think some of those towers that go by produce some sort of a frequency, and I kept hearing a humming noise, and it's just like a constant, like almost like a buzz, like a lower frequency buzz, and it's like there must be some sort of wires somewhere out there, but
so before I got to tell this one. So I've got to pick. It was funny because I was going to go meet Don Keating the next day at Bob Evans for lunch. I think I was buying some books off of him. I'd taken our son out. Our son was feeling kind of down, so my wife's like, "Why don't you take him out?" and go, you guys go out in the woods or something. So it's like 10 o'clock. Now, I had washed the van earlier that day. I wasn't planning on going out Bigfoot, and I wasn't planning on going out on dirt roads. Obviously, I washed the van. So I go out, and we go out, and we go out and do some wood knocks. We're out on County Road 7, not exactly in the same spot, out by Stuckham. We weren't by Stuckham's graveyard. We were a couple miles away from there. But we're stopped. There's a valley down here. There is a oil. There's a road. It's a 2-track that takes you back to one of those big oil container things, right? Those big round things that they have out there for, that's probably all that land out there was owned by the coal mines at one point in time. So whatever they use those things for, I don't even know what it is, but they're maintained still. So the van's back here. The van is back here. We are probably 75 feet ahead of the van, and we hear something walking in that valley down there. You can hear it going crunch, crunch, crunch. Now, I don't know if it was a 4-legged animal or 2-legged animal, but this was after we did some wood knocks, and we were hearing it down there walking. And then I hear this stick go flying into the woods, and I was like, oh, I was thinking for a minute, but then I yelled at my son. I said, "Did you just throw a stick?" And he said, "Yeah." And he's over there giggling. I said, "Don't throw shit unless you're going to tell me." So whatever it was, though, when he threw the stick, I found this to be weird because whatever it was didn't do anything. It didn't run, like animals. If you chuck a stick at it, it's probably going to run, I would think, right? It didn't do anything. It just stopped. And then we could hear it kind of moving off, and it wasn't making a lot of noise. It was very quiet, but you could hear the crunch, crunch, crunch. So because you were talking about that humming, but there's no wires or anything like that out here. I could hear, and it sounded like people talking. There's no houses though around there anywhere, and it's just on the edge of my hearing. So I'm straining really hard to listen, and it sounds like that samurai chatter, that you hear. Sometimes you've heard on some of these Bigfoot shows where it's like, oh,
yeah, I know what you mean.
And I'm hearing it, and like I said, I'm gonna keep doing it. It's coming over here from back there where that oil thing is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just straining, and the hairs on my arms and the back of my neck are just shooting straight up in the air because I'm just like, that's creeping me out because that sounds like talking, but I cannot hear it. I know there's no houses or anything. There's no people back there because there's no vehicles. So we take off. We didn't run out of there or nothing. I said, let's go. This is kind of getting creepy. So we come home. Beth comes home from church the next morning, obviously Sunday morning. She said, "Did you see that handprint on the back of the van?" I said, "What are you talking about?" She said, "There's a big giant handprint on the back of the van." So I go out there, and sure enough, on the back of the van, there's this huge handprint right on the side of the right side of the van. And to me, this is what it looks like. Like it put its hand on the van because we were parked a little bit on a slope. It looked like it put its hand on the van and was like peeking around the van.
Like trying to look around it.
Like trying to look, because that's where we were. We were right up there in front of that. And then I talked to another buddy. That's actually my neighbor. He said, "I know exactly what you're talking about." He said, back there where that oil thing is, there's a ravine. And I found 2 cattle skeletons back there. And he's like, "There's no reason that there would ever be any cows back there. There's no farms or anything." He's like, "Tell me how those cow skeletons got back there. So like the whole thing is I'm just like, ah! I'm just like, what? You know? So that, I mean, it's just really cool. It's like, what is really happening? I just don't know. Like there's so many strange things that all go on when you try to, that's why I like talking about it. Like I said, I told my neighbor, he's an outdoorsman kind of guy. He goes hunting, and he's one of those people that just loves the woods. And we have these stories that just they interlock.
Right.
One thing leads to another.
There's always so many people that have had experiences, and then you find more people that have had similar experiences, and you try and put things together, and then I end up coming away with more questions than I do answers, though, because the more I think I figure things out, the more questions I come away with, because it gets more confusing.
Yeah, it's like the people that I've heard this story. People that go fishing and they've had rocks thrown over their
Mm-hmm.
head, splash into the water. Like I've probably heard that story 20 different times from different people. My nephew being one of them.
Right.
He was fishing out back of their house over on County Road 6. Big old splash a couple of times while he was fishing. His son was in the truck. And they're kind of skeptical about that kind of stuff until that stuff happened. That's the other part is I love hearing stories from people like that.
Yep.
And that's another cool thing about going to shows and conferences is people will ask, and sometimes they want to talk to they're like, hey, have you ever had a sighting? Like, yeah, I did. I do believe in Bigfoot. And so then they'll tell me. And I'm a counselor. So I have people that come in my office and they'll look at my walls and they see my Bigfoot calendar or my little Bigfoot bobblehead on my desk and they're like, you believe in Bigfoot? I'm like, yeah. They're like, well, let me tell you. Let me tell you what happened when I was a kid, or let me tell you what happened when I was a teenager, or let me tell you what happened about a year ago out of Wills Creek.
Right. I've had a
Yeah.
few people come up and do that too.
It's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, you hear all this stuff and you're just, like you said, you come back. I have more questions than I ever get answers, but there sure does seem to be a lot of people that have these similar experiences. And you can't, at some point, I think it was like Dr. Meldrum, said, at some point in time when you put all this stuff together, the idea that it's a hoax is beyond the pay. I mean, it's just, there's no way, with that amount of evidence, there has to be something to it. Like a hoax is more unbelievable than the actual, what is actually happening.
There's too many people having experiences for it all to be a hoax. There's too many random people that have seen things that have nothing to do with it, that don't even talk about it, the random footprints people find, the noises. Like, there's just too much out there. But then I come back with a skeptical stance of, well, if there is something out there, then how come we have not found a body yet, or any bones or anything like that? So that's why I said I come back with more questions, because people are seeing something, but where is it? Where does it go? How come no one has shot one yet? How come no one's hit it with a semi? You know what I mean? So, like, I just keep coming back and forth, like, questioning, because again, there's no answer.
Yeah. And that leads to some, even stranger hypothesis. But I mean, I've had this conversation several times in the last couple of weeks, about where, like you said, why is there no body? Why is there no physical evidence? And so many people, we were just watching the new Small Town Monster. Well, I don't know how new it is, but it's the one that's got Cliff in it, Small
Mm-hmm.
Town Monsters. And they're talking to these people up in Carrollton that own a golf course. I was right next to them. I did a conference in Carrollton 2 weeks ago, and I was right next to to the lady that owns the golf course. She was telling me all about that, and like they've seen two of them up there. There's like a brown one and a gray one, and they got a really good print cast, and like her husband has seen it, her son saw it. She even said the German exchange student saw it, and he was terrified. And I'm like, you know, there's somebody that's just, they have been like psychologically, impacted by this. And but again, why can't, and then she said that they started building a power plant up there, and after that all the activity stopped, which makes total sense, right? Like they took away some of their habitat and now they're gone. But so that fits the perfect narrative of it is a physical creature with a habitat and everything else, and it disappeared. It had to move somewhere else when they started building this power plant up by the golf course. But then, there's all the other times of, well, where do they go? Where do they go in the wintertime? Why do we not find these big, huge trackways like everywhere?
Right.
In the snow.
You see paths of tracks, but then the tracks just stop.
Yeah. That's the other one too, or you find one print
mm-hmm.
in the mud where there's mud everywhere. And it's like, why is there only one print? Or what, I've heard lots of those stories about the trackways just stopping and it's gone.
Yeah.
So, man, I mean, it just, and I'll, the one thing because we were talking about comic books earlier, and Thor is one of, I've got a whole cabinet over here full of Thor. So I take it from that movie, when Thor looks at Jane Foster and he says, your people call it magic, my people call it science. And I think they've used that in Star Trek before too. It's just stuff that we don't understand.
Right.
So I don't, and people use the word woo and, all that stuff. And I think of it more as it's just, if there is something of that component to it, it's just stuff we don't understand. I mean, we just don't understand it yet, which fits. Yeah, because it does leave footprints. It has, supposedly left hair and scat and things like that. So there is some kind of physical element to it, but there's so many things where, I mean, it disappears or it fades in and out.
There's a lot of supernatural elements, I'll say. Like it.
Yeah.
I don't want to call it paranormal, but it's not normal to us. So for what we think is normal, it's outside of that realm.
Yeah, like the orbs and that have been seen with it, or if you watch those old videos or the old documentaries about like the Bridgewater Triangle and the Chestnut Ridge stuff, when they see all these other, fantastic, there was UFOs and there was Bigfoot and there was lights and there was, all these things happening, all throughout the 70s. And it's really cool. I mean, if you talk to, that's another reason you need to come out east. Another one you should come to is the Kecksburg UFO Festival. You talk to Stan Gordon and some other people out there. It's wild. Like Stan Gordon is like, he's been doing this for like 50 years, and he's like got mountains of evidence and mountains of stories, and it's so cool to talk to him about that stuff.
Yeah, I'll definitely try and look into some of those events just because it's something new and it's definitely something I'm interested in. We've been going on for an hour, so I figure now we can talk a little bit about your business and get this one wrapped up. I've got some early morning work to get to here soon. So,
I totally understand.
Would you like to let everyone know where they can find your business stuff and what events you'll have coming up? I know you're going to be at CryptidCon, but by the time this episode airs, we'll both already have been at CryptidCon.
Okay, so those will be gone. So what we'll talk about is talk about please go to our website if you'd like to get any merch, and that's crowtownsquatchers.com. You can also find us on Facebook, the Crow-Town Squatchers store. That's our Facebook page, or you can look up my page. Send me a message if you've seen anything, any kind of merch that we have. If you see pictures of our table, anything like that, send me a direct message and ask me, hey, John, I'd like to get that. We do PayPal, Cash App, we do all that stuff. So that's not an issue. And I ship all over the United States, and even I've shipped stuff to Canada before. So that being said, like I said, it's crowtownsquatchers.com or Crow-Town Squatchers store on Facebook. Send me a private message. Kicking off next year, let's talk about 2026. Early on March, first weekend is the Frogman Festival. You mentioned that before. That's the annual kickoff to the cryptid, called I'm just losing my train of thought now. The cryptid calendar of events. Let's call it that.
I would say the cryptid calendar for all the upcoming 2026 events usually starts with Frogman.
Frogman is the one that kicks it off, and then we'll go into May. The beginning of May is the High Bigfoot Conference, which is just a whole lot of fun, lots of cool people, lots of great vendors and speakers. Some other ones we already mentioned, go over to Pennsylvania, Kecksburg UFO Festival. That is a blast. We always have a lot of fun over there. They really, Kecksburg is just a tiny little burg. I mean, it's like there's 10 houses and they have a volunteer fire department that puts on the whole festival, and it's all weekend. It is amazing. So those are just some of the highlights. Oh, at the end of May, the Red River Bigfoot Festival down in Kentucky, down at Red River Gorge.
Mm-hmm. I'll be there that one.
That is amazing. Yep. That was Charlie Raymond. Charlie Raymond put that on, and he puts it on, and it's amazing. So those are just some highlights there.
Yeah, so we were at that one this year, and it was a really good turnout. Very good time for me. I had a lot. My booth was like one of the first ones people walked up to, so I got to see like pretty much everyone walking in. So I was like, oh, it's a perfect spot for me. So we got a lot of talking to some cool people at that one. But.
Yeah, that was, I was overwhelmed. We were, Charlie asked us to be cosplay judges too. So we were pulling double duty that day. Because we had a awesome, it was just an awesome turnout, and we got to see all the cosplayers, and we got to vote on that, and so it was really cool.
Yeah, so I got my notification the other day about being on that one, so I'll be back down at that one again, so looking forward to that.
Sweet.
Well, we can probably wrap this one up. It's been a pleasure talking with you. I usually don't try and rush things off, but we have been working so much overtime that it's end of the year. We do a lot of construction work stuff, and they're trying to get things completely finished out before the 14th. So they've been working a lot of hours before they have to shut down.
Yeah. So, well, I totally understand. So.
I got to go get my few hours of sleep before I'm back to work.
There you go.
Yeah.
No rest for the wicked.
Not at all. So on that note, thanks for listening. Thanks for John for being on here tonight, and we will check you on the next one. If you would like to be a guest on Tinfoil Tales, remember to send an email to tinfoiltalespodcast@gmail.com, or you can also go to tinfoiltales.com and go to the contact section. Just make sure to reach out and get a hold of me, and we will get something scheduled for a future episode. You can also find Tinfoil Tales on Facebook and Instagram. Just look for Tinfoil Tales Podcast. You can reach out to me that way too. Remember to share the show around. Word of mouth is the best way to help the show grow. And just remember, truth comes at cost. Are you willing to pay the price?